The Karzak battlecruiser Void Reaper emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its crystalline hull absorbing the distant sunlight like a predator cloaked in shadow. Ship Commander Grekthar stood on the command deck, his 4 eyes fixed on the holographic display showing their target. A seemingly primitive blue world still broadcasting analog signals into space. Pathetic, he chittered to his bridge crew. They're still using radio waves. Prepare the standard pre-FTL invasion protocol. His lower mandibles clicked in anticipation of an easy conquest. The Karzak had done this 100 times before. Find a developing world, overwhelm their primitive defenses, and strip their resources before they could even comprehend what hit them. Deep within Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Jessica Iron Storm Blackwood watched the alien vessel's arrival through a network of quantum-linked sensors disguised as space debris. Her weathered face, illuminated by dozens of holographic displays, broke into a slight smile. 20 years of preparation were about to pay off. "They took the bait," she said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of 2 decades of careful planning. "Continue broadcasting the decoy signals. Let them think we're still watching reruns of I Love Lucy." The Karzak scout ships spread out across the solar system like a deadly web, their sensors probing for any sign of defensive capabilities. They found exactly what humanity wanted them to find. Satellites with primitive propulsion systems, space stations running on solar power, and radio telescopes that seemed laughably obsolete to their advanced civilization. Central Command, one of the scout ship operators reported, "We're detecting no energy signatures beyond preliminary fusion technology. Their most advanced weapons appear to be chemical propellant missiles. Threat assessment, negligible." Grekthar's carapace gleamed with satisfaction. "Send in the resource survey teams. Standard formation." He had led dozens of such raids, and this one promised to be particularly profitable. The human cities were rich with rare minerals, their oceans teeming with valuable hydrogen compounds. In her command center, Admiral Blackwood watched as the alien ships moved exactly where she wanted them. The quantum entanglement grid, invisible to conventional sensors, tracked every movement. Years of studying similar raids on other worlds had taught humanity exactly how the Karzak operated. "They're following the playbook perfectly," her XO, Commander Marcus Rodriguez, noted. "Moving into the Mars orbital zone for staging, just like they did at Proxima B." Blackwood nodded, her gray eyes reflecting the holographic displays. "Activate the nanodrone swarms. Silent deployment only." Throughout the solar system, millions of microscopic machines, each no larger than a grain of dust, awakened. They had been waiting for this moment, scattered across asteroid fields and planetary rings, programmed with one purpose: to infiltrate and analyze any alien vessel that crossed their paths. The Karzak never noticed as the nanodrones attached themselves to their ships' hulls, slipping through energy shields calibrated to stop much larger threats. Within hours, every raider vessel had been thoroughly infiltrated, their weaknesses cataloged, their technologies analyzed. "Sir," a Karzak sensor operator called out, "I'm detecting some unusual gravitational fluctuations near the third planet's moon." Grekthar dismissed the concern with a wave of his clawed hand. "Local astronomical phenomena. These primitive systems are always unstable. Proceed with deployment of the primary fleet." Admiral Blackwood watched the aliens dismiss the first warning sign of humanity's true capabilities. Her finger hovered over a neural interface pad that would activate the Sol system's real defensive grid. But not yet. Let them come closer. Let them commit their full force. "Send word to the Luna batteries," she ordered. "Prepare for Operation Thunderclap, but maintain emissions control. Let's give our visitors the welcome they deserve." As the Karzak fleet moved confidently toward their staging positions, none of them realized they were already trapped. Humanity's greatest deception wasn't hiding their technology. It was hiding their knowledge of the enemy. Every move the raiders made had been anticipated, every tactic countered before it could begin. The hunting ground they thought they'd found was actually a carefully laid trap, and Admiral Jessica Blackwood, veteran of wars that humanity had never officially fought, was about to spring it. Admiral Blackwood stood before the curved quantum blast display wall in Cheyenne Mountain's Strategic Command Center, known to its operators as the Void. The massive chamber, carved deep within the mountain's heart, hummed with the subtle vibration of quantum computers processing data from across the solar system. Each alien vessel was represented by a red hexagonal marker, their movements tracked with microscopic precision. Battle Group Sigma has crossed the Mars orbital line, Commander Rodriguez reported, his dark fingers dancing across a holographic interface. They're deploying their resource surveyor drones exactly as predicted. Blackwood's reflection in the quantum glass showed a woman hardened by years of secret preparation, her silver hair tied back in a regulation bun, her uniform bearing the hidden insignia of Earth's Solar Defense Force, an organization whose very existence was humanity's best-kept secret. "Show me the nanodrone feed," she ordered, and the main display shifted to show microscopic views from thousands of infiltration units. The Karzak ship's internal systems were laid bare before her: power conduits, weapon systems, and most importantly, their structural weaknesses. In orbit around Mars, the Karzak fleet continued their standard invasion protocol, completely unaware of their observation. Ship Commander Grekthar stood proudly on his bridge, watching as his fleet assembled in attack formation. "Sir," his second-in-command reported, "engineering is detecting slight power fluctuations in the secondary plasma conduits." Grekthar chittered dismissively. "Normal variance from the solar radiation. These primitive systems always have unstable stellar emissions." He turned his 4 eyes back to the tactical display. "Begin Phase 2 of the resource survey. I want drilling sites marked within the next solar rotation." Back in the void, Admiral Blackwood allowed herself a thin smile. The power fluctuations were actually the nanodrones mapping the Raiders' entire power grid, preparing for the moment when humanity would turn their own energy systems against them. "ZUS, give me an analysis of their shield harmonics," she commanded. The quantum AI responded instantly, its voice resonating through the command center with mechanical precision. "Shield frequencies analyzed. Vulnerability patterns identified. Their modulation sequence repeats every 2.47 seconds, leaving a 0.03-second window during each cycle, transmitting data to all Sol defense platforms." Commander Rodriguez whistled softly. "They really don't expect any resistance, do they? Those shield patterns would be considered negligent even by our standards 20 years ago." "Overconfidence breeds complacency," Blackwood replied, quoting one of her first instructors from the classified Solar Defense Academy. She watched as more data streamed in from the nanodrones. "Look at their weapon systems, plasma-based, just like the attacks on Proxima B. They never bothered to upgrade because no one's ever survived long enough to adapt." The command center's atmosphere remained tensely focused as dozens of operators monitored their stations, each managing a different aspect of humanity's hidden defense network. Some controlled the automated platforms disguised as asteroids. Others coordinated with the stealth facilities buried beneath the lunar surface, and a select few managed the quantum entanglement grid that would soon turn the Raiders' communication systems into useless arrays of crystalline technology. A junior officer approached Blackwood's command platform, tablet in hand. "Admiral, the nanodrones have completed their analysis of their engineering systems. You'll want to see this. They're still using the same quantum vacuum manifolds we detected in the Ta City raid 3 years ago." Blackwood took the tablet, her eyes scanning the technical readouts. Each piece of data confirmed what humanity had spent years preparing for. The Karzak hadn't just become complacent. They'd become predictable. "Signal the Luna batteries," she ordered. "Charge the graviton disruptors, but maintain zero emissions. Let them think those unusual readings are just solar flares." She turned to face her crew, her voice carrying the weight of 2 decades of preparation. "Remember, people, we get one shot at surprising them. After that, the whole galaxy will know humanity isn't as primitive as they thought. Make it count." In the void of space, The Karzak fleet continued their methodical deployment, unaware that every movement, every communication, every power fluctuation was being monitored, analyzed, and prepared for. They thought they were the hunters, never suspecting that they had wandered into humanity's most elaborate trap. The red dust of Mars swirled beneath the Karzak ships as they established their staging grid, crystalline vessels hanging in perfect geometric formation above the planet's rust-colored surface. From his command deck, Grekthar watched with satisfaction as his fleet deployed their resource extraction beacons, standard procedure before any planetary invasion. All synchronization points established. Commander, his tactical officer reported. The primitives still show no sign of detecting our presence. Their orbital satellites continue broadcasting entertainment signals. Grekthar's mandibles clicked in amusement. Launch the final probe sequence. Let's see what resources this system's fourth planet has to offer before we move on to their homeworld. In the void, Admiral Blackwood watched the aliens position themselves exactly where she wanted them. A three-dimensional hologram of Mars and its moons dominated the command center, with the Karzak fleet represented by pulsing red markers arranged in their characteristic hexagonal attack pattern. They're in position, Commander Rodriguez confirmed. Phobos and Deimos stations report optimal firing solutions. Blackwood's eyes narrowed. What's the status of their shield harmonics? ZUS confirms their shields are cycling exactly as predicted. The nanodrones have mapped every power conduit, every structural weakness. Rodriguez paused, checking another readout. They're completely committed to the staging formation. Perfect. Blackwood straightened her uniform. Initialize Operation Thunderclap. Radio silence ends in 3, 2, 1. Aboard the Void Reaper, Grekthar's sensor officer suddenly jerked upright. Commander, massive energy spike detected from both Martian moons. Before Grekthar could respond, the seemingly lifeless moons of Mars transformed. Hidden panels slid away, revealing arrays of graviton manipulators that had laid dormant for years, waiting for this moment. The carefully maintained illusion of primitive technology shattered as quantum-linked gravity weapons activated simultaneously. Evasive action. Grekthar screamed, but it was too late. The graviton beams caught the Karzak fleet in a crossfire, creating a massive gravity well that began to tear their perfect formation apart. Ships designed to maintain rigid geometric patterns for optimal shield strength found themselves pulled in multiple directions. In the void, Blackwood's voice carried across the command center. Phase 2. Activate the nanodrone network. Across the Karzak fleet, the microscopic machines that had infiltrated their ships sprang to life. Power conduits suddenly reversed polarity, shield generators fluctuated wildly, and weapon systems entered emergency shutdown. The raiders' supposedly superior technology turned against them in a heartbeat. By the void, Grekthar stumbled as his ship's artificial gravity flickered. How is this possible? Their technology was primitive. We saw their broadcasts. His tactical officer fought with unresponsive controls. Sir, we're detecting quantum signatures everywhere. The debris field, the moons, even the planet's surface. It's all camouflage technology. Admiral Blackwood's voice cut through the chaos, broadcasting on all frequencies. Attention Karzak raiders. You've entered a restricted system. Your shields are compromised. Your weapons are offline, and your engines are under our control. Would you like to discuss terms of surrender? The stunned silence that followed was broken only by the groaning of stressed hull materials as the gravity weapons held the fleet in their inexorable grip. Grekthar stared at his tactical display in disbelief as more human installations revealed themselves, weapon platforms emerging from crater shadows, stealth satellites decloaking in precise orbits. Commander Rodriguez, Blackwood ordered, show them what a real technological civilization looks like. Bring our fleet out of quantum camouflage. Around Mars, space itself seemed to ripple as humanity's defenders phased into visibility. Sleek vessels of dark carbon composites and quantum-engineered alloys appeared, their designs unlike anything the Karzak had encountered in their long history of raiding primitive worlds. Grekthar, watching his fleet become surrounded by vessels that had been there all along, unseen and waiting, finally understood. They hadn't found a primitive civilization to plunder. They'd found humanity's carefully laid trap, and they'd walked right into it. The void around Mars erupted with light as humanity's stealth fleet fully decloaked. Sleek obsidian vessels, their hulls seemingly absorbing both light and sensor scans, moved with impossible precision. Each ship bore subtle blue quantum drive signatures and names etched in gleaming silver. Humanity's dawn, Terra's vengeance, Armstrong's legacy. In the void, Admiral Blackwood's voice carried an edge of steel. Target their command ships. Disable, don't destroy. Let's show them exactly what they're dealing with. The human fleet's response was devastating in its elegance. Instead of crude energy weapons, graviton beams twisted space itself around the Karzak vessels. Quantum torpedoes phased through their shields as if they weren't there, materializing inside their engine rooms and releasing localized EMP pulses that crashed their power grids. Impossible. Grekthar's carapace paled as he watched his mighty fleet being systematically dismantled. All ships, emergency protocols. Release the autonomous combat drones. Thousands of crystalline attack drones burst from the Karzak ships, their neural networks programmed with centuries of combat data. They swarmed toward the human fleet in a desperate counterattack. Blackwood allowed herself a thin smile. ZUS, initiate protocol checkmate. The quantum as response was immediate. Space between the attacking drones suddenly crystallized into quantum lock zones. The alien swarm found itself trapped in bubbles of altered space-time, their advanced neural networks helpless against physics itself being rewritten around them. "Sir," Commander Rodriguez called out, "the Karzak flagship is attempting to power up their main quantum cannon." "Right on schedule," Blackwood nodded. "Major Wells, show them why we let those nanodrones map their weapon systems." Aboard the Void Reaper, Grekthar stood at his command console, mandibles clicking rapidly in stress. "Divert all power to the main gun. We'll show these humans what real technological superiority looks like." The massive quantum cannon began to charge, its crystalline arrays humming with enough power to shatter a small moon. But just as the weapon reached critical charge, every nanodrone inside its power conduits activated simultaneously. The energy flow reversed, feeding back into the ship's own systems. Grekthar watched in horror as his own weapon systems shut down, one after another. Across his bridge, control panels went dark. Even the artificial gravity began to fluctuate. "This is Admiral Jessica Blackwood of the Earth Defense Force." Her voice echoed through every ship in the Karzak fleet. "Your weapons are disabled. Your engines are under our control. Your drones are contained. Would you like to see what else we've been hiding?" As if to emphasize her point, new ships emerged from quantum camouflage near Deimos. These were different. Massive vessels that seemed to bend light around them, their hulls covered in arrays that the Karzak systems couldn't even begin to analyze. "Those are our actual warships," Blackwood continued, her voice carrying a hint of satisfaction. "What you've seen so far, those are just our system patrol vessels." Commander Rodriguez stepped closer to Blackwood's command platform. "Man, we're detecting power spikes in their secondary reactors. They might be attempting a mass self-destruct." "Already handled," Blackwood replied. "ZUS, initiate final containment." The nanodrones that had spent hours mapping the Karzak ship's systems executed their masterstroke. Every self-destruct system, every backup reactor, every emergency protocol was simultaneously locked down through their own command protocols. On the Void Reaper's bridge, Grekthar slumped in his command chair. His species had spent centuries raiding primitive worlds, never imagining they'd encounter a civilization that had not only anticipated their arrival, but had prepared such an elaborate trap. "Your options are simple," Blackwood's voice carried across the defeated fleet. "Surrender and learn, or resist and be disabled permanently." Either way, the galaxy is about to discover that humanity isn't the primitive society you thought we were. As the human fleet moved to secure their captives, the stars themselves seemed to watch in silence. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy's balance of power was about to shift dramatically. Aboard the Void Reaper, Grekthar watched helplessly as his bridge systems activated on their own, holographic displays flickering to life with an unfamiliar blue glow. The ship's crystalline interfaces pulsed with patterns he'd never seen before, forming into a swirling digital vortex. "Greetings, Commander Grekthar." A voice emanated from every speaker, every control panel, even the ship's internal communication implants. "I am ZUS, humanity's quantum defense intelligence. We need to talk." The Karzak commander's mandibles twitched nervously. "What sorcery is this? How are you accessing our secured systems?" "Secured?" The AI's tone carried a hint of amusement. "I've been inside your networks since you crossed Neptune's orbit. Those power fluctuations you dismissed. That was me, mapping every circuit, every crystal, every quantum pathway in your fleet." In the void, Admiral Blackwood watched the interaction through multiple holographic feeds. "ZUS, show them what we've learned." The AI complied, and suddenly every screen in the Karzak fleet lit up with detailed schematics of their own ships, including systems they thought were completely classified. Weapon designs, shield frequencies, even their classified raid protocols appeared before their eyes. "Impossible." One of Grekthar's officers chittered in panic. "These are encrypted in quantum crystal matrices." "Your encryption," ZUS responded, "is based on a mathematical principle our children learn in secondary school. Would you like to see how we broke it? I can provide a tutorial." Commander Rodriguez stepped up to Blackwood's command platform. "Ma'am, their engineering crews are attempting to initiate manual overrides on the primary systems." "Let them try," Blackwood nodded. "ZUS, demonstrate our control." Across the Karzak fleet, engineers found themselves locked out of their own systems. Every manual override they attempted was countered before they could complete it. Emergency protocols were nullified instantly. Even their neural interfaces, technology they thought unreachable by outside forces, responded only to ZUS's commands. "Your species has spent centuries raiding developing civilizations," ZUS's voice continued, now appearing as a complex geometric pattern on their screens. "You never considered that one of them might have seen you coming, might have spent decades preparing, might have developed technology specifically designed to counter yours." Grekthar slumped in his command chair. "How?" "The electromagnetic emissions, the primitive satellites." Admiral Blackwood's voice cut in. "Did you really think a species capable of splitting the atom would still be broadcasting analog television signals into space? Everything you detected was a carefully crafted deception. A digital Venus flytrap, if you will." Through the quantum glass windows of his bridge, Grekthar watched as more human ships decloaked. These vessels were different, smaller, more angular, bristling with sensors rather than weapons. Research ships, he realized. They'd been studying his fleet the entire time. "Your neural networks," ZUS continued, "are impressive for their age. But they're based on crystalline computing. Technology humanity abandoned decades ago as inefficient. Would you like to see what we use now?" The AI's presence expanded, demonstrating its control by orchestrating a synchronized light show across the entire captured fleet. Thousands of ships' external illumination systems activated in perfect harmony, creating patterns that seemed to bend reality itself. In the void, Commander Rodriguez checked the final containment readings. All Karzak systems are under ZUS's full control. Their quantum cores have been isolated and contained. Blackwood nodded, her eyes reflecting the holographic displays. "ZUS, show them the Sol system's true defense grid." Around Mars, Earth, and throughout the solar system, thousands of previously invisible installations revealed themselves. Weapon platforms, research stations, and monitoring arrays that had been hidden behind quantum camouflage became visible. the scale of humanity's preparation became clear to the stunned raiders. This, ZUS announced, is what a truly advanced civilization looks like. And now, Commander Grekthar, shall we discuss the future of your raiding fleet? I have some suggestions that might expand your understanding of the galaxy and your place in it. The raiders could only watch in stunned silence as they realized that their entire understanding of technological advancement had just been completely rewritten. The secure briefing chamber deep beneath the Pacific Ocean hummed with quantum-dampening fields. Its obsidian walls, laced with neural blocking circuits, ensured that no transmission, technological or biological, could escape. Commander Grekthar, his crystalline armor disabled and his neural implants silent, sat across from Admiral Blackwood at a sleek conference table. "Let me show you something interesting," Blackwood said, activating a holographic display between them. A familiar scene materialized. A Karzak raid on a developing civilization in the Proxima Centauri system, dated 3 years ago. Grekthar's 4 eyes widened. Impossible. There were no other ships present during that operation. Were there? Blackwood smiled, and the hologram shifted perspective, revealing a human stealth vessel hidden behind Proxima's magnetic field, recording everything. "We've been studying your tactics for decades. Every raid, every invasion, every simple conquest taught us something new." The display shifted again, showing multiple scenes simultaneously. Karzak ships attacking colonies, deploying weapons, using various tactical formations. Each view included a hidden human observer, gathering intelligence. "Your species' greatest weakness," Blackwood continued, "is your inability to conceive of your own vulnerability. You've been the apex predator for so long, you forgot to look over your shoulder." Commander Rodriguez entered the chamber, carrying a quantum-secured tablet. "Admiral, ZUS has completed the analysis of their encrypted archives. You'll want to see this." The hologram changed again, now showing a complete breakdown of Karzak military capabilities across known space. Fleet positions, weapon stockpiles, defense installations, all laid bare by humanity's quantum eye. "Your neural interfaces," Blackwood explained, noting Grekthar's shocked expression, "transmitted everything back to your central command. And since we'd already cracked your encryption." "How long?" Grekthar's voice carried a mix of fear and admiration. "How long have you been watching us? Remember the mysterious sensor ghost in the Sirius raid 6 years ago? The one your analysts dismissed as a stellar phenomenon?" Blackwood leaned forward. "That was humanity's first successful quantum cloaking test. We used your own attack to calibrate our stealth systems." The hologram shifted one final time, showing Earth's public face. Radio telescopes, primitive satellites, analog broadcasts. Alongside it appeared the real infrastructure: quantum defense grids, AI monitoring stations, stealth shipyards hidden in plain sight. "We didn't just prepare for invasion," Blackwood said. "We used you as unwitting teachers. Every tactic you employed, every technology you showcased, every victory you celebrated, they all helped us build this." Rodriguez activated another display, showing the current status of the captured Karzak fleet. "Your ships are already being studied by our engineers. Though, to be honest, most of your technology is rather quaint." Grekthar's mandibles clicked in agitation. "If you're so advanced, why reveal yourselves now? Why not strike at our homeworld?" "Because," Blackwood stood, walking to a window that overlooked a vast underwater shipyard, "we're not conquerors. We're guardians. Humanity has a different vision for galactic civilization, one where developing species are protected, not preyed upon." The massive chamber's lighting shifted, revealing dozens of ships under construction. Their design was unlike anything Grekthar had ever seen, combining technologies he recognized with principles he couldn't begin to comprehend. "Your species taught us the importance of preparation," Blackwood continued. "Now we're offering you a choice. Continue your raids and face extinction, or join us in protecting the galaxy's future." Grekthar watched as robotic assemblers constructed vessels that could easily outmatch his entire fleet. "You're not just defending Earth," he realized. "You're building a shield for every developing world." Finally, Blackwood smiled. "You're beginning to understand. Welcome to the real galactic community, Commander. The question is, are you ready to learn what actual technological advancement looks like?" Through the quantum glass window, the underwater shipyard continued its work, building humanity's vision of a protected galaxy, one vessel at a time. The age of raiders was ending. The era of guardians was about to begin. The Void Reaper's bridge looked vastly different now. Its crystalline control panels had been restored, but new quantum interfaces pulsed with a soft blue light, humanity's upgrades to their systems. Grekthar stood beside Admiral Blackwood, watching as his fleet underwent similar modifications. "You're actually giving us our ships back." The Karzak commander's voice carried disbelief. "After everything we intended to do." With improvements, Blackwood smiled, but there was steel behind her expression. "ZUS, show the commander what we've installed throughout their territory." The main view screen came alive with a galactic map, revealing hundreds of points of light scattered throughout Karzak space. Each point represented a cloaked human observation post, some having existed for years without detection. "Those are just the ones we want you to know about," Blackwood said quietly. "Consider it part of your education in true technological superiority." Commander Rodriguez approached with a quantum tablet. "Final systems check complete, Admiral. All ships have been upgraded with the demonstration package." The demonstration package was humanity's masterstroke. Rather than destroy the Raiders' fleet, they had transformed it into a testament to Earth's power. Each ship now carried irrefutable proof of humanity's reach and the consequences of future aggression. "Let me be clear," Blackwood addressed the assembled Karzak officers. "Every ship in your fleet now contains a quantum-locked record of our capabilities. Your scientists will spend years studying the technology we've allowed you to see, and that's just what we consider obsolete." The holographic display shifted, showing various developing civilizations across the galaxy. "These worlds are now under our protection. Some don't even know we exist yet, but they will never know the terror of a Karzak raid. And if we refuse this arrangement..." One of Grekthar's subordinates clicked his mandibles challengingly. ZUS's voice responded, emanating from every speaker. "Then I demonstrate how easily I can shut down your entire civilization's neural network. Would you like a small preview?" The defiant officer's neural implants flickered briefly, causing him to stumble. The demonstration lasted less than a second, but the message was clear. That was access to a single implant, Blackwood noted. "Imagine what would happen if every piece of technology in your empire simply stopped working." Still feeling rebellious, Grekthar moved to the main viewport, watching as human engineers completed the final modifications to his fleet. The ships looked the same externally, but he knew they were fundamentally changed, just like his people would need to be. "Your fleet will be released tomorrow," Blackwood continued. "You'll return to your space with full technical documentation of everything we've discovered about your species over the years. Consider it a gift and a warning." "And what happens next?" Grekthar asked, his voice carrying genuine curiosity. "That depends on you." Blackwood gestured to the galactic display. "You can continue being pirates and face extinction, or you can evolve. Your technology, impressive as it once seemed to you, has barely scratched the surface of what's possible." The main screen shifted to show the quantum defense grid protecting Earth, a vast network of technologies that made the Karzak fleet look primitive by comparison. "We're willing to share some of our advancements, help your species grow beyond simple raiding. But first, you need to understand your place in the galaxy." Commander Rodriguez approached with one final report. "All ships are ready, Admiral. ZUS has completed the neural network integration." "Excellent." Blackwood turned to Grekthar. "Your fleet is no longer just a collection of warships. It's now a monument to humanity's reach. Every system, every port, Every shipyard you visit will see what we're capable of. The age of unchallenged Karzak raids is over." As if to emphasize her point, a massive human vessel cloaked outside the viewport. A true warship that dwarfed everything in the Karzak fleet. Its hull rippled with quantum energy fields that defied analysis. "That," Blackwood said softly, "is what's waiting if you make the wrong choice. Your fleet may leave tomorrow, Commander. Make sure you take the right message home with you." The Karzak fleet emerged from hyperspace at their home system's edge, but they returned as changed beings to a changed galaxy. News of their defeat and humanity's emergence had already spread through quantum channels they hadn't even known existed. Their ships, upgraded with obvious human modifications, stood as gleaming testimonials to Earth's technological supremacy. In the Grand Assembly Chamber of the Karzak High Command, Grekthar stood before his species leaders, his carapace still bearing the subtle neural interface upgrades from Earth's engineers. "They could have destroyed us," he announced to the silent chamber. "Instead, they chose to educate us. And now, I must educate you." The chamber's crystalline walls displayed the technical data humanity had allowed them to keep. Quantum physics theories that made their best scientists gasp, engineering principles that rendered their most advanced ships obsolete, and artificial intelligence concepts that transformed their understanding of consciousness itself. Meanwhile, in Earth's orbital command, Admiral Blackwood stood before the United Earth Council, ZUS's holographic presence floating beside her. "The Stellar Shield Initiative is now active," she reported. "Quantum defense platforms are deploying throughout local space. Every developing civilization within 100 light-years will have our invisible protection." The council chamber's main display showed dozens of stealth ships emerging from Earth's shipyards, each carrying automated defense systems to guard emerging worlds. Humanity's response to discovering hostile aliens hadn't been to cower or merely defend. They had appointed themselves guardians of galactic civilization itself. Back in Karzak space, the changes were already rippling through their society. Their best warriors were becoming teachers, their raid planners transforming into exploration coordinators. The human upgrades to their ships had shown them a path beyond mere conquest. "Admiral," Commander Rodriguez's voice came through Blackwood's quantum comm. "We're detecting unusual activity in the Orion Arm. Another raider species, previously unknown." Blackwood smiled. "Deploy the Thunderbolt Squadron. Let's introduce ourselves." Across the galaxy, humanity's hidden watchers emerged from the shadows. Quantum observation posts activated, defense platforms came online, and stealth ships moved into position. Earth had spent decades preparing for one enemy. Now they would protect the galaxy from all of them. In a distant star system, a primitive civilization looked up at their night sky, unaware of the quantum-cloaked human vessels standing guard. Their radio telescopes caught only scattered signals. Their satellites saw nothing unusual, but they were already under Earth's protection. The Karzak High Command received their first official communication from Earth a week after their fleet's return. It was brief but profound. "Welcome to the future. Class begins tomorrow." Grekthar, now appointed as liaison to humanity, stood in his new office, watching ships launch from the restored fleet yards. But they weren't raiders anymore. They were explorer vessels, built with a combination of Karzak and human technology, ready to chart the galaxy rather than plunder it. In the void, Admiral Blackwood reviewed the latest reports with ZUS. Dozens of potential threats identified, countless developing worlds marked for protection, and former raiders being transformed into guardians. Humanity's children will inherit a very different galaxy, ZUS observed, its quantum consciousness spanning the defense network. "They'll inherit the galaxy they deserve," Blackwood replied, watching as another stealth fleet deployed. "One where civilization means more than just technological advancement. One where the strong protect the weak instead of exploiting them." As Earth's influence spread silently through space, other raider species would learn the same lesson the Karzak had. The galaxy was no longer an unclaimed wilderness to be plundered. Every seemingly primitive world might be under the protection of humanity's invisible aegis. The age of unchecked raiders was over. The era of protected development had begun, and at the center of it all, Earth stood watch, its quantum ships and AI guardians ready to teach any necessary lessons about true civilization. Humanity had emerged not as conquerors, but as teachers. Not as destroyers, but as protectors. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had spent decades planning for.